Hello and welcome to this video about the first men of East Bengal. In this video, we will explore the origins and history of the ancient peoples who inhabited the region that is now known as Bangladesh. We will also look at their culture, religion, and achievements. So let's get started. Part 1. The Pundra and the Vanga. The earliest ancestors of the people of East Bengal were the Pundra and the Vanga. They were mentioned in the post-Rig Vedic literature as population settlement units rather than countries, but later they formed their own kingdoms and cultures. The Pundra and the Vanga were probably related to the Austroasiatic and Dravidian speakers who migrated to the region from Southeast Asia and South India. They lived in villages along the rivers and cultivated rice, vegetables, fruits, and spices. They also traded with other regions and countries, such as Magadha, Kalinga, Ceylon, and Southeast Asia. The Pundra and the Vanga were influenced by Buddhism and Hinduism, which were introduced by the Mauryan and Gupta empires. They also developed their own art, architecture, literature, and coinage. Some of the famous rulers of the Pundra and the Vanga were Mahasthangar, Chandrakatugar, Samatata, Harikela, and Deva. Part 2. The Muslim Conquest and the Bengal Sultanate. The next major change in the history of East Bengal came with the Muslim conquest in the 13th century. The Turkish general Bakhtiar Khalji invaded Bengal in 1204 and defeated the Sena king Lakshmana Sena. He established the Delhi Sultanate's rule over Bengal and promoted Islam as the state religion. He also built mosques, madrasas, and khanqahs to spread Islamic learning and culture. However, the Delhi Sultanate faced frequent rebellions and invasions from local rulers and foreign powers, such as the Mongols, the Khiljis, the Tughlaqs, and the Afghans. In 1352, a former governor of Bengal named Shamsuddin Ilyas Shah declared himself as an independent sultan and founded the Bengal Sultanate. He unified most of Bengal under his rule and made Pandua his capital. He also initiated a golden age of prosperity, trade, culture, and military dominance in Bengal. The Bengal Sultanate reached its peak under Sultan Hussein Shah, 1493 to 1519, who expanded his territory to include Bihar, Orissa, Assam, Tripura, and parts of Nepal. He also patronized Bengali literature, art, music, architecture, and coinage. Some of his famous works are the Adina Mosque, the Choto Sona Mosque, and the Hussein Shahi dynasty coins. Part 3. The Mughal Empire and the British East India Company. The Bengal Sultanate declined after Hussein Shah's death in 1519 due to internal conflicts and external threats. In 1576, the Mughal Emperor Akbar conquered Bengal and made it a province of his empire. The Mughals brought a new era of stability, administration, revenue system, land reforms, and cultural synthesis in Bengal. They also built many forts, palaces, gardens, tombs, mosques, bridges, roads. Part 4. The Rise of the Nawabs and the Battle of Plassey. The Mughal rule in Bengal gradually weakened in the 18th century due to the decline of the central authority, the rise of regional powers, and the invasion of the Marathas. In 1717, a local governor named Murshid Quli Khan declared himself as the Nawab of Bengal and made Murshidabad his capital. He and his successors maintained nominal allegiance to the Mughal emperor but exercised de facto independence. They also faced increasing competition and interference from the European trading companies, especially the British East India Company. The British East India Company had established its first factory in Bengal in 1651 and gradually expanded its trade, influence, and military presence in the region. The company sought to gain more privileges and concessions from the Nawabs, who resisted their demands and tried to limit their activities. This led to a series of conflicts and wars between the Nawabs and the company. The most decisive and famous of these was the Battle of Plassey in 1757, where the company's forces led by Robert Clive defeated the Nawab Siraj-ud-Dawla with the help of his traitorous uncle Mir Jafar. The Battle of Plassey marked the beginning of the British colonial rule in Bengal and India. Part 5. The Permanent Settlement and the Bengal Renaissance. The British East India Company consolidated its power and control over Bengal after the Battle of Plassey. It introduced a new land revenue system called the Permanent Settlement in 1793, which fixed the land tax at a high rate and gave zamindars, landlords, permanent rights over their lands. The permanent settlement had many negative effects on the peasants, who faced exploitation, oppression, and indebtedness from the zamindars and the company. It also led to ecological degradation, famines, and social unrest in Bengal. On the other hand, the permanent settlement also created a new class of educated and wealthy Bengalis, who were influenced by Western ideas and values. They initiated a cultural and social movement known as the Bengal Renaissance, which aimed to reform and modernize Bengali society, religion, literature, art, science, education, and politics. Some of the prominent figures of the Bengal Renaissance were Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Rabindranath Tagore, Swami Vivekananda, Jagadish Chandra Bose, Ramahan Roy, etc. Part 6. The Nationalist Movement and the Partition of Bengal. The Bengal Renaissance also gave rise to a strong nationalist movement in Bengal against British colonialism. Many Bengalis participated in various political parties and organizations, such as the Indian National Congress, the Muslim League, the Swaraj Party, the Anushilan Samiti, and the Jugantar. They also took part in various campaigns and movements, such as the Swadeshi movement, the non-cooperation movement, the civil disobedience movement, and the Quit India movement. They also faced repression and violence from the British authorities, such as the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, the Chittagong Armory raid, and the Bengal famine of 1943. In 1905, the British government decided to partition Bengal into two provinces, East Bengal and West Bengal. The partition was based on religious lines, with East Bengal having a Muslim majority and West Bengal having a Hindu majority. The partition was opposed by many Bengalis, especially Hindus, who saw it as a divide-and-rule policy to weaken the nationalist movement. They launched a massive protest against the partition, which included boycotts, strikes, demonstrations, and cultural activities. The partition was annulled in 1911 due to public pressure. However, in 1947, when India gained independence from British rule, Bengal was again partitioned into East Pakistan and West Bengal along religious lines. This time, the partition was supported by many Muslims, who wanted a separate homeland for themselves. However, it also caused massive displacement, violence, and communal riots between Hindus and Muslims. Part 7. The Birth of Bangladesh. The partition of Bengal in 1947 created a new country called Pakistan, which consisted of two geographically separated regions, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. However, East Pakistan soon faced discrimination and neglect from West Pakistan in terms of political representation, economic development, cultural identity, and language rights. The Bengali language movement of 1952 was one of the first expressions of East Pakistani discontent and nationalism. It demanded that Bengali be recognized as one of the official languages of Pakistan. The movement was met with brutal suppression by the Pakistani authorities, who killed many protesters on February 21st. This day is now celebrated as International Mother Language Day. The Bengali language movement inspired many other movements and parties in East Pakistan that demanded more autonomy and democracy from West Pakistan. Some of these were the Awami League led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the National Awami Party led by Maulana Bashani, and the Mukti Bahini led by Tajuddin Ahmad. In 1970, the Awami League won a landslide victory in the general elections of Pakistan on the basis of its six-point program for greater autonomy for East Pakistan. However, West Pakistan refused to accept the election results and transfer power to the Awami League. This led to a political crisis that escalated into a full-scale war of independence in 1971. The war lasted for 9 months and resulted in the liberation of East Pakistan from West Pakistan with the help of India. On December 16, 1971, East Pakistan became an independent country called Bangladesh. Conclusion. This was a brief overview of the history of East Bengal and Bangladesh. We hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you liked this video,